The following is a production of KYNE TV in cooperation with UNO Television. Consider This with Carol Schrader, a news and informational program recorded on the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Here is your host, Carol Schrader.
Consider this: a tax-supported university hospital facility and a not-for-profit hospital right across the street, and how they got together. What kind of marriage is it, and what kind of marriage will it be? Welcome. We are, I believe, Student Election Day here at the university, so it's a little bit noisy. We're in the Milo Bale Student Center, as we are every week now. I'd like to introduce my guest, Dr. Louis Berger, MD, PhD, is the president and CEO of the new Nebraska Health System. He's originally from Clarkson Hospital. Dr. Jim Armitage is an internist, as is Dr. Berger. He is chairman of the board of Nebraska Health System. He is from the University of Nebraska Medical Center, and that's what we're talking about, is a merger. And is merger the proper legal term?
Yes, it's an operational merger, not an asset merger. And what that means is both of the parents, in this case the Board of Regents and Clarkson Regional Health Services, have retained ownership of the bricks and mortar and equipment and have leased them to this new company called the Nebraska Health System.
So it's a legal deal, but it's a lot more than that, right, Dr. Armitage?
Right. The kind of merger, business-wise, is what Lou just described, but this is, as far as the hospital goes, this is a real merger. That is, we're now one hospital, and one team, everybody working together, one administrative structure. It's a real effort to do something I don't think anybody's done quite ever like this in the United States, and that is to take a university teaching hospital and a very high quality private hospital and merge them as equals into a new, better institution.
Okay, if we describe this as a marriage, I don't know if you call it, at some point, it was thought of as a shotgun marriage or what, but Dr. Berger, since you've sort of been involved in this very, at least in Clarkson, moving into, well, you both were going to move into new streams of the medical world at one time or another, but take us back a ways. Not every little detail of the history, but Clarkson at one time was looking to be sold.
Clarkson had been approached by Columbia HCA,
A for-profit
organization, to become their flagship in this part of the country in a joint venture. Ultimately, we pursued a sale, and in the process of what one goes through in that investigation, an old agreement that many of us who've been around for a while sort of knew about but hadn't read very carefully popped up, and it included some language that gave the university a right of first refusal, or appeared to, and there was a lot of disagreement about what that meant, but ultimately because...
And bad blood, maybe, a little...
Well, yes, there was a lot of pride involved, as you might guess, but ultimately we ended up, both of us, trying to defend our legal rights in court, and that was unseemly. None of us were very happy about that happening, and we decided to sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk about the possibilities, and we found that there was really a lot more goodwill there than we had appreciated, and a lot more opportunity, and people like Jim showed the way in terms of compromising and finding common interests, and the rest is history, I guess.
So it sounds like you went to a marriage counselor. No, but the basis of a good marriage, or maybe a good merger, is that you find what you have in common.
That's correct.
And you build upon your strengths and the trust. Now, there was a lot of mistrust even within the University Medical Center milieu when there was talk about working with Allegiant Health in Omaha, right? I mean, created some of your own personal bad blood, right, Dr. Armitage?
That was a very complicated issue for a lot of different reasons, but I think it would be fair to say that the majority of physicians, at least at the university, didn't think that was an obvious partnership for us, given if no other geographic reasons.
And I think there was some concern about the religious tilt of the Allegiant system with
That might have been true for some. It wouldn't have been true for me, actually. I don't think that would have been a great concern. I think that the geographic issues were important, and probably a different perception of mission might have been important. Where Clarkson, its history and the university's history have actually, first of all, been intertwined, not just geographically,
and
but
they have
interest for a
worked
long
together.
time. Very much so. When a very great part of the teaching that the university has done over the last several decades has been in Clarkson. And Clarkson has a faculty, a group of physicians who have had a commitment not just to teaching but also interest in research, and there are a number of them who have carried on research there. I think that we're really very natural partners.
All right, so you got together, you had the cup of coffee. The paper is signed, sealed, and delivers. The university regents approved it unanimously. The board of trustees and the directors at Clarkson said, okay. Now you have to, in addition to just putting a connector between the campuses, you have to connect the culture and make it, if not one, certainly some melding going on. What's the biggest challenge right now?
Well, the biggest challenge right now is getting through the day and all of the meetings.
We've got our short-term crises.
Our activities have obviously doubled to some extent, but we're on a fast track to set up and identify a new organization in 30 days. We will have the leadership in place. We have already started the new strategic planning process to bring the two organizations' plans together. And yes, the connector is a part of what we are doing, but that's probably a year away.
It may be more symbolic in a sense.
Yes.
That it is.
Jim and I feel that perhaps the delay in getting the connector in place is a blessing, because there's a lot of work to be done. And what we're finding is a lot of enthusiasm on both sides of the street. A lot of people who perhaps had some concerns about whether the deal would ever happen now realize it's going forward, and they're excited. We're all excited.
But there's a lot of unknown territory, Dr. Armitage, isn't there? I mean, what are the areas that, I won't say are you concerned about, although I'm tempted to say that, but I know you won't answer that question. But what are the areas that present the most challenge?
Right now, the biggest issue is not what many people were worried about, that is getting the medical staff together, because I think that will happen naturally. We have a group of physicians who respect each other, have overlapping interests. This will happen naturally. And the few people who remain skeptical, I think, are going to be won over as they see how smoothly this goes forward, and how people develop pride in the quality of what we're going to do. This is going to be an extraordinary business that we're making.
All right, so where is the rub?
The problem is all the mechanical issues about how to rearrange our hospital to do things maximally efficiently. Now, there's huge amounts of business issues, but with a skillful person like Lou leading, those will be no problem at all. But it's not at all simple to figure out how we're going to deliver care. That is, we can't have two wards doing the same thing, and where should they be? And which CT scanner or which imaging device or which whatever toy you want to talk about should be left open or closed, or should they be moved, or where should they be? How can we build the most efficient possible hospital that can deliver the very best care you can get anywhere in the world at increasingly lower prices? This will be an exciting challenge.
So there is some economy of scale to be gained here, but you don't know quite how you're going to do it yet.
Well, let me use an example. If we put in a $10 million piece of equipment, which is not unrealistic in this day and age when you look at linear accelerators and the type of high-tech equipment that we use, if we put in one rather than two, that savings is obvious. But beyond that, in our business, you can figure about 15% per year of the purchase price of an instrument for ongoing maintenance and care, plus very skilled and highly trained people to maintain the equipment, the contrast media, that is the dyes and so on that we use for the tests. All of these things add up, and so the savings can be tremendous over time.
Well, I'm sure that the taxpayers who have certainly an interest in how the Med Center works into this. And I know the university is separate from the hospitals, and I think people need to understand that. I think you made it pretty clear that you have separate entities, but the business of hospitaling,
Yes.
serving the actual patients is what has merged. But that I'm sure the taxpayers are concerned, as are all the people that have for years and years contributed and trusted in the Clarkson establishment. These are two terrifically heritage organizations. They both have a great heritage. And so I think that people are just kind of seeing that sometimes when you have a great heritage, it is harder, I don't want to say stubborn, but it is harder to abandon a piece of that for something new.
Well, of course, we have our joint history and we have our separate history. University Medical Center has become a national leader in their programs and the education of young people in health careers. Clarkson is Nebraska's oldest hospital and has a lot of rich traditions. And so our job is to preserve that heritage, to respect it, but also to develop our own stories as a new company, to begin to develop our own culture. We were very careful in the merger process to try to capture the essence of both those cultures in our mission statement, in our vision, and where we plan to go. We've written that down very carefully, and we're trying to stress to everyone in the organization what we're about, and we think it's going to be something very good.
When you are successful, you alluded to it, Dr. Armitage, this may be a pattern for the future for other organizations.
It may be that we're a unique enough situation that it'll be hard to duplicate this, but we are going to be so successful, I promise you, that people will try in the future to duplicate it. That we have, it's a very unique situation though, of the interrelationships. You just talked with Lou about the historical issues. There are interrelationships of the people here, and to some degree he and I illustrate this. He was my medical resident when I was a student in medical school, and Lou was both at Nebraska. Lou was the chief of pulmonary medicine once upon a time at the university. I was in private practice once upon a time at Clarkson. And there's all sorts of stories like that of this interrelationship that's very much deeper than people appreciate, I think. And I'm not sure it'll be easy for others to copy that. However,
the geography helping
the geography
that
helps
situation.
tremendously.
Yes, it does.
But this is going to be something everybody is going to be tremendously proud of.
Well, it'll be a textbook case for at least hospital management to study, I think. This sort of separate but equal, but together. How are you going to build new structures?
I told Lou, by the way, that he could spend the rest of his career, if he wants, after this is over, just giving talks about it to hospital administrators. It's true.
I think so. I mean, it will be referred to as the Omaha situation. But when you go into, since you're keeping your assets somewhat separate, and I'm sure you're donating or not donating is the right word, but putting them into I don't know if you'll do it by loans or what.
It's a lease.
Lease. Mm-hmm. What happens then when Nebraska Health System needs a new building or a new structure? Then do you parlay your assets and then will Nebraska Health Systems own that?
The expectation is that we will be successful enough to pay for our own equipment and buildings if that happens. And the agreement is that new assets become the property of the new company. The assets on the day of the merger remain with the parents. New assets become the property of the new company. And we feel that we'll be able to paddle our own canoe. But we also know that our parents have resources and reserves, and we have an understanding that if we have something that's really exciting that will contribute to a nationally prominent positioning in healthcare, that we have the opportunity to go to the Clarkson Foundation or to the university reserves, the foundation, and perhaps get some help with that.
And maybe some help from elsewhere, knowing what you two have created, the child from the marriage. All right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Market position. For years, I think, in this changing healthcare, I mean, this is crazy. I can't even begin to think of how everyone figured out how to deal with managed care and the changes in insurance and the alliances that would be made to get these economies of scale and increased marketing position. What's the bottom line here? We've heard that accounting firms say that you'll just reap great benefits from this merger, and that you will increase the accounts receivable and the net flow and all. I don't know all the proper accounting 101 terms. Others are a little more skeptical. But what in the marketplace in Omaha, what do you feel the positioning is for the Clarkson Med Center Nebraska Health System?
Well, on day one, our coming together creates an entity with about 25% of the market share, which is significant. We think that we can grow that. We're confident that our new institution will be a magnet to good physicians who want to be a part of this. We have an inclusive philosophy about health care insurance. We would like to be a part of all the programs that feel that they can use us, and we would like for all of the patients in our market area to feel like they have access to our new institution.
Was there fear at any time in the past 5, 6, 10 years, I'm losing track of time, that either one or both, the Med Center or Clarkson, would be sort of shut out of the alliances that were being made? I mean, the Med Center did try to hook up with Allegiant, and I'm never really sure what, the Clarkson had possibly the sale going, but was there concern for either one of the organizations that they wouldn't find their niche with someone else?
I think today, in the way medicine is changing, you have to always be alert and willing to adapt to a changing environment to be sure that you're in the different reimbursement mechanisms are set up.
But were you ever a little nervous, wondering, you delay awake at night, or did you care about, what this changing thing can change tomorrow? You can hear that, and I hear you hear the buzz in the industry, but you can wake up and find out, all your enemies have formed an alliance, and enemies is a bad word, Carol, but all your competition has formed an alliance, and you're left out there in the cold trying to wheel and deal with insurance companies and HMOs. And
it's obviously one of the good things about this merger, that this is a very large and powerful organization that will be harder to leave out.
Will the consumer benefit from this?
I think so. What you were describing is something that's happening in healthcare, and that is consolidation. And it's a very competitive industry. I don't think we ever had doubts that we would ultimately be successful, but one of the things that the new environment has forced us all to do is to become more efficient. Clarkson has reduced its operating costs 29% in the last 3 years. University 15 or 17%. We've become the leaders in terms of efficiency. We know we have good quality. And so I don't think we ever had any doubt that we could be competitive. And of course the whole environment has changed. We were worried about the Clinton health plan creating barriers to access for people. Now there's more an attitude of patients should have a choice, and we should compete on the basis of quality. So.
I think you'll find that this new entity will cause several advantages to consumers. One is we're going to build quality programs that wouldn't have been possible otherwise, and so people will be able to benefit from new or better ways to do treatments that wouldn't have existed in this region. But it'll be economically very striking. Lou just told you about how the hospitals have, just because they decided to, become very much more efficient. Huge amounts of money saved just by deciding they were going to do this. And they do it actually by partnering with the doctors in the hospital, working together to decide to reduce costs. It's possible to improve quality while you do that. One of the programs at the university is the bone marrow transplant program, which is internationally known.
Yes.
We have patients from all over the world that come to have treatments. Actually, I made a mistake I shouldn't make. One of the programs at Nebraska Health Systems is the bone marrow transplant program. And that has reduced its costs for a bone marrow transplant from $125,000 in 1983 to somewhere around $50,000 today, without accounting for inflation. And at the same time, the mortality rate from that treatment has dropped from about 30% to about 2%. So it's possible, if you have the right people and the commitment on the part of the organization, to reduce cost and improve quality, and we'll do that in all sorts of places.
I think sometimes consumers are a little skeptical of that concept, and it's not that they're skeptical of you particularly in this new organization or your old ones. It's that we have seen, feeling that we have less choice or fewer choices, that insurance companies and HMOs will dictate more of our lives. With the setup that you are setting up right now and the evolution of your organization as you see it, and your freestanding clinics, hospitals, and all that, what is your vision for offering Omahans comprehensive health care?
How do you want
You were talking to me a little bit about sort of all the different ways you can hospital or serve people.
We will be the leaders at altering the way health care is delivered.
You sure of that? Can I write this date down? And
I guarantee you. With Lou as our president, I absolutely guarantee you that's going to happen. And it'll happen in several ways. One way is what I was referring to earlier, and that is we'll build more and more of these programs. The resources that Lou was referring to earlier will be invested back into the enterprise, not haphazardly, but focused in ways to build more programs that we can all be proud of. And at the same time, we're going to be leaders in modifying the way a hospital is organized. And it's not going to any longer just be a building where you go and lay in a bed, but it's going to be a network of activities that will be from the intensive care unit for the most desperately ill patient on one extreme to day hospitals and clinics for people able to stay at home or in a hotel on the other, and everything in between. And our challenge is to not just build those facilities, but to develop protocols, rules for care that see that we get the patient to the point that's most pleasant for them and most economically advantageous for them in that new thing that we're going to build.
I would imagine in a teaching environment that would be a really significant thing to do, to make your health professionals of the future understand to right size the service, that what comes out on the tray from the kitchen is really what they want and need and not what just fits. I'm curious about the regional care that the university, one of their roles is to provide not just research and teaching, but medical resources to greater Nebraska. And to some degree, just because of proximity, it's served southwest and western Iowa. Where does this Nebraska health system fit in to that picture?
We have 30 ambulatory sites in the new Nebraska health system in 2 states. For example, we have 8 outpatient dialysis centers ranging from Kearney, Grand Island to Shenandoah, Iowa, and up to Harlan. These dialysis centers allow patients closer to home to have access to top of the line dialysis services. We have a radiation therapy center in southwest Iowa, one of the hospitals. We expect to be able to do more of that in cooperation with our partners in the communities in the 2-state area. And that's a commitment that both Jim and I have in order to get those type of quality services out to the larger community.
Is it felt from the gut of this new institution instead of just something you have to do? I mean, is it?
That's really what we've always been about. Both institutions have always provided what we used to call tertiary care services to the 3-state area, including Northwest Missouri. The university has now grown to be what I would call a quaternary institution with liver and heart transplants and bone marrows that go far beyond what we ever thought would happen. But we both have that commitment, and it really is from the gut.
You know, it would have seemed like science fiction 20 years ago, even, or maybe 30 years ago, but you see medical stories on, you know, doctors say at a place like the new Nebraska Health System, looking by TV at, you know, all the x-rays or things, or talking to a patient across the state of Nebraska, how are you feeling, you know, all that bedside manner thing via phone lines.
Yes.
or even satellites. Will the economy of scale and the new system allow more of that high-tech stuff? I'm not just talking about the big machines, you know, the MRIs and all those linear accelerators.
I can give you examples of things we're doing now and we'll be doing more of in the future. Our radiologists can actually read x-rays from their homes at night in rural hospitals via landline and television hookups. So yes, we expect to have the capacity to offer more of those telecommunicated type services. After all, Omaha is one of the telecommunications center in the country.
If we can't do it, who can?
That's right.
We've got 2 minutes left, and I want to give you each a chance to just say, without sounding like the sales pitch, you probably gave the regents and everybody else, but just, you know, what does this personally mean to you? You're going to invest an incredible amount and have invested time, energy, thought. Your spouses are probably going to feel like they are, you know, fifth in line, not just second in line. Jim, what does this whole thing mean to you?
I went to medical school here and grew up in our state. And when I was in medical school and did my general medicine training here, I don't think back then Nebraska had the same commitment to excellence in being the best as has happened over the years. I said to somebody once that I think that's because, maybe because Bob Devaney came to Nebraska and showed Nebraskans that you don't have to be ashamed that you're from Nebraska. In fact, we can be the very best at things. And this is a chance for us to be absolutely the very best in more things. I believe our combined efforts actually have some things that were as good as there are in the world already. But we're going to be the best at a number of other things because we're going to generate resources and enthusiasm and attract outstanding people.
Well, since there is compromise and give and take in this, you only have 30 seconds, Lou.
Well, you know, I grew up thinking I was going to be a family doctor in McCook, and service is what our profession is about. And we just have a wonderful opportunity to do a better job of providing healthcare services to our people.
I really want to thank you for joining us, Dr. Louis Berger, formerly of Clarkson, now Nebraska Health System, and of course Jim Armitage from the Med Center, now with Nebraska Health System. I wish you all the best. Thank you for joining us, and joining us next week. Join us please next week to Consider This.